In order to understand spirituality, it is essential to understand the concept of the conflicted mind. In Buddhist terms, this is the ego mind. We must make very sure that we define this properly. The only way, in my opinion, to do this effectively is mathematically and geometrically. Any other approach will result in some degree of confusion and uncertainty. This is such a critical idea that any uncertainty is not acceptable at all. The challenge is to get the detail correct. Question: what is the source of the ego mind? To answer this question, let us go directly to the straight line and attempt to describe its psychology. A straight line is a very basic geometric element. Therefore, in line with the idea of consistency, its psychological behavior must also play a fundamental role in the workings of the mind. The first point of note is that a line is the simplest shape that has opposite ends. So it symbolizes opposites or extremes. We can view these extremes as the positive and negative poles, just like we find in electricity. The straight line not only has opposite poles, but it connects them. This is known as a short circuit in electricity. A short circuit is a very dangerous electrical phenomenon. It destroys everything and only halts its destructive march once the connection between the poles has been severed. We can therefore conclude that the straight line exhibits suicidal behavior. It has self-destruction written all over it. Another property of the straight line can be explained by taking a piece of string and placing it on a table, say. The question is, what do we need to do to turn a squiggly piece of string into a straight line? We need to apply opposing forces to its ends. These opposing forces will force the string to become straight. This confirms that a straight line is associated with opposites. Another point of note is that these opposing forces are equal and opposite about the center. The center is therefore a point where forces cancel. So the center has the number 0 as one of the components that describe it. This, however, is the subject for a different discussion. We can conclude our analyses by stating that the conflicted or ego mind is the line that goes to the center of the circle, because the conflicted mind has opposing forces in it that operate around the center. So there we have it. The ego mind is described in all its aspects by the diameter of a circle. This tells us that the conflicted mind was not created by any person or what he thought about, but rather its behavior is determined by the properties of a straight line. From a psychological point of view, the straight line phenomenon manifests as thoughts of conflict, which are thoughts of contradiction. Does this mean that your mind destroys itself if it sees everything in terms of us and them, because the idea of separation between us and them creates opposite poles? The answer to this question is involved with a subtlety that masters like the Buddha and Jesus were able to understand. The only way, in my opinion, to answer this question effectively is to use the model of the conflicted mind as our basis. This is the diameter of the circle. The diameter is not only a model for the ego mind, it is the ego mind. Geometry and psychology are one. The answer to the question is that thoughts of conflict only have the potential to wreak mental havoc if they are incorrectly interpreted as real. We will now explain why. There is a technical aspect associated with the undoing of the ego mind. This involves the right angle and its associated property, which is the undoing or negation. There is a geometric theorem that has very far-reaching consequences in this regard. It states that the diameter of a circle AB subtends a right angle at any point C on the circumference of a circle. It is the point A and B on the diameter, its extremes, that are the dangerous points. It is these that we need to deal with. The line AC projects the point A onto the circle. BC projects point B onto the circle at C in such a way that it is at right angles to AC. This means that A and B have no effect on each other at point C. Point C makes A and B negations of each other, which means that at C, A and B are not in opposition to each other, but are negations of each other. These negations do not have an effect or influence on each other in terms of direction. As the right angle and its principle of negation has direction as a major property, we could say that the circle, because of the right angle at C, is an endless journey where the opposites or conflict has no effect or does not exist. Check out video V1201 if you don't fully understand this.